It's never too early to start planning for retirement. A lot of investors become quite nervous as they start approaching retirement. This is an incredibly important phase of life, and choosing how to structure your retirement portfolio would be one of the most important decisions you'll ever make in your investment lifetime. And the main objectives that need to be obtained in this part of your life is that firstly, we need to outperform inflation, which becomes incredibly important in a retirement lifetime, as new funds won't be flowing into your portfolio, but we need to optimize the funds that we have to work with. I think especially in South Africa, it's quite important to realize what real inflation is as well. I think in many calculations and when it comes to day-to-day living, we work on an average band of 3 to 7% inflation. But when you really look at your medical aid, cost of living, what it really comes down to, how it feels in your pocket, it's important to really plan for real inflation, which would be closer to 8 to 9%. So the main challenge we have at retirement is that we not only need to outperform inflation, but we also need to outperform your capital growing. So we need to ensure that this portfolio would last as long as possible, not knowing how long you're going to live. This is the main mistake that a lot of investors tend to make when you come to retirement. The idea that we have reached an end of a lifespan and now we're going into this new investment phase seems scary. But it's important to remember that this is actually the start of a new investment term, which would most probably be another 30 to 40 years. So investing too conservatively is something that carries a risk of its own. So the main asset allocation strategy that I would recommend reaching retirement is that we use low risk, low volatile asset classes for the short-term needs. This would consist out of cash and bonds. This would essentially be the part of your portfolio where you are earning your income from. So we tried to plan for roughly 1 to 4 years need in this part of your portfolio. And the way of thinking around this is that it doesn't matter what happens in the world, what happens with load shedding, what happens in the country, this should not impact your monthly income. After this, the capital you will only require 4 years plus from now needs to be in growth assets. This is a combination of local and global equity exposure. This is the key part to the portfolio to ensure that we can outperform these benchmarks that we need to outperform to ensure that you are enjoying capital growth. So investing too conservatively in this phase of life is something to be very careful for. A lot of investors tend to only want to deviate to cash and bonds in this phase of life, as they don't want to experience volatility. The average return that you're going to enjoy in these asset classes would be roughly anything between 4 and 8%, depending on the economic cycle we're in. If we're looking at inflation and we're looking at real inflation, this carries a risk of its own, as you're essentially actually losing buying power on a daily basis, so you're not really going anywhere. Where the moment we start building in growth assets and equity exposure, this is when you can really enjoy returns of CPI or inflation plus 6 to inflation plus 7, ensuring that you are not only outperforming inflation, but outperforming your income need as well over a long term. So whether you're on the brink of retirement or not at all, but realize that you want some guidance when it comes to the strategy and the structuring of your asset allocation within your portfolio, reach out to us at PSG Wealth R21. We can take the reins on the strategy and you can enjoy life.